Hello, I'm Brandon, and today I'm going to show you how to install a new tire on your KLR 650. What's up guys, and welcome to Extreme Daily Drivers, where we are always balling on a budget and wrenching our garage. And today we have something a little bit different. Instead of working on cars, we're going to work on my KLR 650. We're going to do something today that I've never done myself, and that is we are going to replace the tire on the front of the KLR. Whenever you're working on your motorcycle, you always want to use the tools that are currently on it or came with it. So let me show you real quick what the bike comes with. It comes with this little tool pouch right here, which I'm going to remove in a second. I finally got this thing open. This is the tool pouch that it comes with. Believe it or not, there's a ton in here, and I'm going to show you that in 1 second. So here's the pouch. It's kind of hard to do this with one hand, but I'm just going to dump it out. So as you can see, we got wrenches for the front and rear wheels. This is an extension because you can somehow piece this together to make it work like a T-bar. That's a handle, some cheesy pliers, some box wrenches, or open-ended wrenches, whatever you want to call it. I think this is a spoke wrench. Again, you could put this together and create a screwdriver, Phillips head, both sides. You get kind of a lot in such a small package, but as good as this is, it could be way better, and that's why I added a ton more tools. So I got an extra tube for the rear, got an air compressor, I got the tools that I've added, I got a jumper for the battery in case it ever dies, which has happened to me, and I have these. These are tire spoons. I'm going to open up here in a second. In addition to these tools that come with the motorcycle, we have some tire spoons. So we got one that gives you killer leverage, and then two others in different sizes in order to get the tire off the wheel. I got these on Amazon. There's going to be a link in the description. So on top of what the Kawasaki gives you and what I purchased here for tires, I have my own little toolkit here. This is the Wolfman toolkit. This rolls out, and inside here we got even more stuff. There you go, 14mm socket, screwdriver with multiple heads, pliers, needle nose pliers to be specific. Got a nice little razor blade, some pliers for cutting, flashlight. This is a knife, 10mm box wrench. This little guy here to add sockets to, 14mm on there. Here is 12mm box wrench. We have electrical tape, Allen wrench, new razor blade. I gotta get this guy out of here. GorillaGrip, Allen keys, Allen wrenches, whatever you want to call them. I got this on Amazon. The link will be in the description. So to remove the wheel, the first thing we have to do is remove this nut. Once this nut's removed, we're going to loosen these two Allen head bolts and these two. So I got the axle out. The wheel kind of fell forward towards me, away from the brake caliper. On the left-hand side, this is the speedometer cable. So we're going to just let that hang. And now we got our wheel free. So on the brake side, there's a little spacer. You want to make sure that that gets reinstalled when you put the wheel back on. For now, I'm going to take it off because I don't want it to pop off while I'm changing the tire out. So like I said before, I've never actually done this. I've done it on a bicycle a million times, but I've never done it on the front tire of a motorcycle. I did the back tire. It's a total nightmare. So I'm really hoping this is going to be a lot easier this time around. Let's get started. Let's let the air out of this thing. This is another little tool that I keep stashed away in my tank bag. And what this does is it removes valve stems. That's the quickest way to get the air out of the tire. So we're going to remove the valve cap. Take this little guy. Stick it in here. And then we are going to loosen, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You can hear the air coming out. This is what your valve stem looks like. You want to inspect it to make sure it's in good shape. These are easily replaced if you ever need to replace one. I have spares on the motorcycle just in case. So now that we let all the air out of the tire by removing the valve stem, we're going to go ahead and remove this valve lock, as you can see here. Once again, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Okay, we removed the valve stem. We have removed the valve stem. We removed the valve stem lock. So now we can start removing this tire. You can hear that it still has a little air in it. It's not a lot. This part of this is actually not that bad. It's putting the tire back on that's close to impossible. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our spoons, and they're called spoons for a reason because they're round. Alright, so the idea is that it's not going to do any damage when we hook this underneath the tire and pry it. I already don't like this. So you hold one down, you get another one. And again, you want to use the dipped edge, get underneath that tire bead. What you can do is you can use the spokes to hold the spoons down. So you just keep doing this until the tire's off. Alright, now it's working. It's usually that initial scoop. The initial spoon is difficult. Okay. So we got the tire off on one side. Now we gotta get it off on the other. All this without damaging the tube, because I'm actually going to reuse the tube. So we have to be really careful. So to make sure I don't damage the tube, I went ahead and worked the valve out from the little hole in the wheel. And now we're just going to pull the tube out. Can you imagine doing this on the side of the road? It would be terrible. Alright, we got the tube out. So now that I got the tube out, I don't have to be so worried about damaging stuff. So we can damage all we want now. Ta-da! Actually, it really wasn't bad. Once I got that tube out, I just started to work the inner part, the inner lip of the tire, and it quickly popped off. Just so you can get an idea of what the tire looked like, it was pretty worn down. Like I said, this is the original tire. This is a street dirt tire. So it's supposed to be okay on either one. It's not great on either one, it's just okay. Now one thing about this tire is, I believe it's an off-road tire, which means that it's pretty flexible. It's got some play to it. The new tire that we'll be installing, which I got off Amazon, link below, this is the E804 Shinko tire. It's very popular. It's in the 90-90-21 tire size, which is typical for a dual sport. I know I'm really close to this camera, but anyway, you can see the knobbies are a little bit more extreme. This is actually supposed to be a really good road tire as well. Should get somewhere between 5,000 to 7,000 miles out of a set of these. So this is the new tire, and it is not as flexible as that tire I just took off. Now, that being said, that tire just took off is old, and this one is new. So I'm hoping that this is going to install very easily. Just as easy as the old one was to uninstall, but we're going to find out. So installing the new tire should really be the exact same thing as removal, only backwards. Here's the thing. When I tried to do this on the rear, it was a disaster. It was so hard to do. What I would do on a bicycle is I would insert the tube now into the tire. I would get it kind of started. I'd feed the valve stem through the hole in the wheel. I'd put that lock on it, and then I'd start working from there. That way my tube is always where it needs to be once the tire starts getting reinstalled to the wheel. When I tried to do that on the back tire, it didn't work. So I'm going to play around with this for a little bit and figure out the best way. The hardest part of this is that valve stem. The valve stem's got to go in the hole in the wheel, and it's so difficult to get it there. There are actually tools that they make that's like a leash where you hook it to the, it's like a fish hook. You take one hook, one end of it, you hook it to your valve stem, you put it all on, and then you pull it through the valve hole, and it'll make the tube spin around in the wheel and pull out through. I almost bought one, but I really don't do this that often. I want to do this so I know how to do it in case I ever have to do it, but going forward, I'll probably be paying somebody to do this because I hate doing this job. So let me tell you what I'm doing right now. There's a lot of manhandling going on. I had the wheel on the ground. I inserted the tire just as I removed it, the exact same process. I got 50% of the tire on the wheel just by bending and pulling and pushing on it. And now this last section, I'm going ahead and I'm using spoons to try to spoon on this kind of first inner wall of the tire over the rim lip. So I don't think this is how I did the back one. The one thing to keep in mind is that there are actually like 5, 6, 7, 45 different ways to actually do this. There isn't one set way to do it. You basically just need to work at it till you get it on there right. One thing that I am just realizing right now is you need to pay attention to how your tire gets oriented on the wheel. And what I mean is, you'll see right here where it says front and rotation. Luckily for me, who wasn't paying attention to that 2 seconds ago, this is how the wheel will be oriented on the bike. So it actually is going to roll the correct way. So I did put the tire on properly, which is shocking. So I just got the tire on halfway. As you can see, it really wasn't that bad. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert the tube, put it through the hole in the wheel, put the valve lock on it, and then finally I'm going to reinsert the final wall of the tire. So far this is going pretty darn well. So before you reinsert your tube, you want to cover it in baby powder. And what this will do is it helps cut down friction while the wheel is actually spinning and the tube is inside the tire. It also will help for installation to keep things nice and smooth. So you should always have baby powder with you when you're on your motorcycle, just in case, for that fresh feeling. When you're reinstalling the tube, you want to make sure there aren't any kinks in it, and you just want to feed it in. I got my valve cap, or I got my valve lock on there. It's just hand tight for now. All I want is for the valve stem to stay where it is and for this tube not to slide around while I continue installing the second wall of the tire. So one last step before I go ahead and start spooning on the second part of this tire is you want to tuck around the tube into the actual wheel. The reason that you want to do that is because once we start spooning, we want to make sure that we're spooning the tire on and not the tire and tube. If we do that, we can pinch the tube and cause a tear, and then we're going to have to do this all over again because we got a tube with a hole in it. So now we're starting to reinstall the final wall of the tire. We're going to use the exact same process as we did to remove the tire. Again, you have to be really careful that you do not puncture or grab onto the tube while you're doing this. To make this process simpler, there's something called a bead buddy, which I have, but I can't find it. I bought it like 6 months ago for this specific reason, and I don't know where it is. But what it does is it helps hold the tire in place as you go around and spoon. I'll put a link in the description about the Motion Pro Bead Buddy. I got it off Amazon. So if you're interested, it's supposed to be a big help. I, of course, don't know where mine is, so we're doing it without it right now. So far, I'm about halfway around this wheel. I got the tire halfway installed. Spoons are working great. One thing to keep in mind is that as we start to get towards the end of this, tension is going to begin to build. One way that we can relieve tension on this tire is we can ensure that the opposite side of the tire is fully seated and actually push towards the center of the wheel as much as possible. The center of the wheel has kind of a cup shape to it. So if we can move the tire as close to the center of the wheel as possible, it'll give us more play to get this last section. So as I've been doing this, I've been taking probably 6-inch bites with the spoon. As I start to get closer to this end, it's going to be more and more difficult, so I'm going to have to take much smaller bites, maybe even 1-inch bites, until I can finally get this end of the tire completely mounted on the wheel. So this last section of the tire, as you could probably imagine, is being really difficult. I only have about 12 inches left to pry on. This whole process really could kind of be done. So to make things a little easier, we're going to use some lube. I'm just going to spray the hell out of everything. So check it out. We did it. We got the tire mounted on the wheel. So I think the lube really helped at the end. And for the most part, that really was not that bad. It was actually harder to get the wheel off than it was to change the tire out. But I'm just going to chalk that up to beginner's luck, because this is a difficult job most of the time, especially if it's cold out. As you can probably see, I'm sweating my butt off right now because it's probably 90 degrees in this garage. And that helps the rubber. The rubber's softer in the hot weather. If this was 30 degrees and we were doing the same job, it would be 10 times harder. So we got it on there. Now it's time to get some air in it so that the bead sets on the wheel. But before we do that, we're going to reinstall our valve stem. So now that we got this awesome 804 Shinko tire mounted on the front, it's time to get it on the road, make sure everything works. Specifically the speedometer, because you can screw this cable up when you put the axle back through and it won't calibrate. So we got to make sure our speedometer is working. So thanks so much for watching today. I hope you learned something. I probably made this job sound a little worse than it actually is, but in a controlled environment it isn't too bad. I would hate to do this on the side of the road or on the side of the trail, but at least if I do have to do that someday, I know how to now. So if you have any questions about any of the tools that I used today or the tire itself, go ahead and check the description. I have some links down there to Amazon where I purchased this stuff. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit that like button, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.